While most people are familiar with prehistoric predators like Tyrannosaurus and Smilodon, there are many other large carnivores throughout Earth's long history. Among these was Prestosuchus. While smaller than many of the later theropod dinosaurs, with a length close to 7 meters, Prestosuchus was one of the largest predators during the Triassic period, and perhaps the largest land predator that had evolved by that point. Only Pseudosuchus and Saurosuchus are thought to have been as large or larger, and they evolved after Prestosuchus. Despite its similar appearance, it was not a dinosaur, but instead a member of Pseudosuchia, the clade consisting of reptiles more closely related to crocodilians than to dinosaurs. Among the most apparent differences from both crocodilians and dinosaurs was its posture. While there were plenty of quadrupedal dinosaurs, all carnivorous species were bipeds. On the other hand, Prestosuchus seems to have been quadrupedal. It had long forelimbs, and its strongest leg muscles were those that rotated the limbs, a trait characteristic of quadrupeds. This condition was not universal among Triassic pseudosuchians. Others, such as Poposaurus and Prestosuchus, were bipeds. Prestosuchus's limbs also differed from those of crocodilians. Whereas crocodilian limbs are held in a semi-sprawling posture, Prestosuchus's were held in a more erect stance. Like dinosaurs and mammals, this would have made it capable of greater speed when running. However, the limbs of Prestosuchus and other pseudosuchians weren't built the same as those of dinosaurs. Dinosaur limbs were attached to the hips from the side. Prestosuchus's limbs instead attached from below the hips, in what is referred to as the pillar erect stance. Still, Prestosuchus had much in common with its modern relatives. Attachment points on its limb bones show that it shared 13 leg muscles with crocodilians, as well as birds, the other living group of archosaurs. However, it only had 2 muscles in common with crocodilians that were not also present in birds. This shows that while Prestosuchus was more closely related to crocodilians, it still lacked many of the traits that would evolve later. Like many other pseudosuchians, Prestosuchus had 2 rows of bony osteoderms on its back. These osteoderms are wide and roughly heart-shaped, but as an apex predator, love is not what most of the contemporary fauna would have associated with Prestosuchus. Its main killing weapon was its large, deep skull. Robust and filled with serrated teeth, its bite would have been devastating. Between the maxilla and premaxilla, the boundary of which can be found after the first 4 teeth in the upper jaw, there is a small slit. It appears that this slit allowed movement between these 2 bones, though why Prestosuchus evolved this trait is currently unknown. Notably, one Prestosuchus skull is so well preserved that there is an endocast of its brain. Its shape was remarkably convergent with those of the later, large, theropod dinosaurs. The reason for this is that their brains were ancestrally similar. During the Jurassic period, when dinosaurs evolved to replace Prestosuchus and its relatives as the apex predators, they were under similar evolutionary pressure while possessing brains very similar to those of Prestosuchus's smaller ancestors, explaining the evolutionary convergence. There is a misconception that Prestosuchus's name was meant to mean fast crocodile. While the suffix suchus does mean crocodile and is a common component in pseudosuchian names, Presto was not meant to mean fast. The first half of Prestosuchus's name is instead in honor of the Brazilian paleontologist Vincenzio Prestes de Almeida, who was active in Brazil when Prestosuchus was first found. Brazil is also the only place definitive Prestosuchus fossils are found. These come from the Santa Maria Formation, specifically the Dinodontosaurus assemblage zone. Slightly younger parts of this formation contain fossils of some of the earliest known species of dinosaur. Prestosuchus may consist of more than one species. The type species, and only definitive one, is Prestosuchus chinaquinensis. Another species assigned to Prestosuchus, Prestosuchus loricantis, may instead be its own genus. Like the type species, it is also from the Santa Maria Formation. Fossils of a possible third species, Prestosuchus nyassicus, have been found in the Tanzanian Manda Formation, which is also dated to the Middle Triassic. Prestosuchus nyassicus has usually been considered its own genus, Staganosuchus. Some other Prestosuchus specimens have also been found to possibly lay outside of all currently established and proposed species, suggesting Prestosuchus was once very diverse. Prestosuchus belongs to the clade Loricata, which includes many other, large, carnivorous species, such as Prestosuchus and Polynosuchus. Loricata also contains Crocodiliomorpha, the larger clade that includes crocodilians. Prestosuchus belongs to neither Crocodiliomorpha nor the other advanced clade, Rausuchidae, occupying a basal position within Loricata. Its closest relatives were Luperosuchus and Saurosuchus. They may form a small clade, or they may form a series with each other, each becoming progressively closer to the more derived Loricatans, with Prestosuchus being the most basal of the three. Therefore, crocodilians and other advanced Loricatans may be descended from a species of Prestosuchus. However, it is hard to establish direct ancestor-descendant relationships in the fossil record. Even if Prestosuchus was not their direct ancestor, it was, at a minimum, very closely related to that ancestor, and the more derived Loricatan species were still very similar to Prestosuchus. Even the most basal crocodiliomorphs still retained many similarities. So, whether or not Prestosuchus was their direct ancestor, its legacy still continues on through the crocodilians. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Have a great day, and, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to hit the like button.